be there who does not know this poem Ring-a-ring-a-rosies? I think all of us as children in school have sang this song in that very bad way children sing, screaming at the top of the voice. We used to make a circle and we used to sing this song Ring-a-ring-a-roses, and a pocket full of poses. Now this word POSIES, it is not POISC, but it is POSIES, a pocket full of poses. We used to collect leaves and flowers and put those things inside our pockets. Yes, a pocket full of poses means dry leaves, herbal leaves. We used to keep it ready to throw it out at that sentence, a pocket full of poses. And we used to say the third sentence, hush, hush, all keep quiet, keep quiet. And then we used to just go around in one more circle and say, we all stand still. And then we would say, hush, we all fall down. Isn't it? Now the same poem, suppose we say Ring-a-ring-a-roses, is rashes that are appearing on the skin that look very much like roses. And then here is a person who has a nice pocket, and in that pocket he has bunch of herbal medicines. He is even wearing a mask. The tip of that beak contains herbs, and this was the attire the doctors used to wear. And this Asha Busha is actually a tissue. A tissue means sneezing. Sneezing was the symptom for, yes, the plague, the Black Death. This poem is actually considered to be depicting the Black Death. Yes, sneezing was one of the symptoms, and it seems people who got it, there was hardly any time before they just fell down to their deaths. And if you look carefully at one of the pictures, you can see carts used to be driven up and down the street to collect the bodies. There were no one to even bury the dead. That plague was so bad. The Great Plague, an outbreak of bubonic and pneumonic plague, affected London in the year 1665. Let's go through the poem once again. Ring-a-ring-a-roses. So ring, we make a ring, and we used to play this game with flowers and leaves in our pocket. Collect it and keep it, so that at this sentence, a pocket full of poses, we used to throw those things out of our pocket. And this word POSIES, it means a bunch of flowers or bunch of herbal medicines of just flowers and leaves. Then we used to be ready for the next sentence, Hasha Busha. This is the version, one of the version that is popular in India. So we just keep quiet, and for some time we just stand still, and then we go one more round, and then we say Hasha Busha, we all fall down. This poem seems to be just a game, but there is a deeper meaning to this poem interpreted by certain critics. They say that rings are actually the rashes that come up on the skin like roses, and you can see the cart in the background. Those carts used to be used for the patients who got this plague. The doctors, the physician used to wear this kind of dress, have a pocket with the herbal leaves, and they carried the medicine even in the beak. And this a tissue. Yes, the sneezing was the first symptom of the bubonic and pneumonic plague that affected London in the year 1665. And as soon as patients got the symptoms, they would get rashes on their bodies, and it would be a matter of few hours. And physicians who would rush to treat them, they carried pockets, bags, sling bags that would contain the herbs, and they had to keep the medicine even in the beak, the mask that they wore. Yet, in spite of all that, mostly it would be the end result would be a certain death. Not only in India but all over the world, in many countries, in United States, in UK and many other countries, this game is very popular. Children play. We used to play in India like this when we were in nursery school, Ring-a-ring-a-rosies, and we would collect flowers and leaves and put it in our pockets. A pocket full of posies, very beautiful word. POSIES means a bunch of herbal medicine or bunch of flowers and leaves. So it was interesting to collect things and put it in a pocket, but only dry leaves and dry flowers, and then we would throw it out. I think at that young age it is nice to learn something like that. And then we would say hasha pusha, keep quiet, and we would stand still for some while, and then once again we would say harsha busha, means keep quiet, but this time we all fall down. Of course it would be great fun when we fell down like that, but at this later stage, a few years back we came to know that it was actually the rashes that meant ringa-ringa-rosies, and you can see the bag in which the physician carried the herbal medicines, which were the only medicine available, and the mask, a funny mask with the beak, so that the physician don't catch the infection. So they had to wear that mask. And the cart in the background, patients used to be carried in the cars driven. This yes, sneeze, a tissue. The sneezing was the symptoms, and because most of them met with a certain death, so carts used to be driven up and down the road, and dead bodies used to be collected and dumped in mass graves. So that is how there seemed to be a deeper meaning. As children, we never understood it, but now when we read through certain documentaries and blogs, there are lot of writings. Critics have written about this, about how this poem has a greater meaning to it. I think it's nice to know at a younger age that we can collect herbal medicines in a pocket like that. Stephen Winick, in his blog post Ring Around the Rosie, Metafolklore, Rhyme and Reason, a blog written on Folklife today, states that James Fitzgerald, he wrote a blog on Londonist which describes this poem Ring-a-ring-a-rosies. Stephen Winick goes on to add that Fitzgerald states emphatically that this rhyme arose from the Great Plague that affected London in the year 1665. The fatalism of the rhyme is brutal. The roses are a euphemism for deadly rashes. The posies, a supposed preventive measure. The atishu pertain to sneezing symptoms, and the implication of everyone falling down is, well, death. This kind of interpretation for this poem, Ring-a-ring-a-rosies, has emerged only in the mid 20th century, and it became widespread but has never been accepted for several reasons. Main reason being that there are many versions of this poem, and all these versions are very different. Many of them do not have the word atishu, which is the symptom for sneezing, and of course, many of them don't even have this version that people are falling down, which means or can be interpreted as a certain death. Stephen Winick ends his blog stating that our love for the plague story goes deeper than the agendas of a few interest groups. Even professors who know it's not true can't resist telling it. Folklorists know better than anyone the fascination with things that are older than they seem, and with extraordinary origins of everyday things. Yes, we all have a great fascination for things of the ancient time stories, or ancient stories are always very fascinating for us, and we love to see extraordinary origins for our everyday things, small everyday things in our life. We would love to see it get related to something very extraordinary of the very ancient time stories. Let's take a look at some of the versions of this poem. In many versions, everyone gets up again once they've fallen down, which hardly makes sense if falling down represents death. Poeses or bouquets of flowers are almost universal in the song. However, many versions do not make them portable but install them in pots and bottles, which doesn't fit well with the plague interpretation. All this quoting from that same blog, and this is the version of that poem. Round the ring of roses, pots full of posies, the one who stoops last shall tell whom she loves best. Well, a very funny version compared to what we know here in India and learnt at school. And here is a version that was found in America. It goes as ring around the roses, pocket full of posies. Light bread, sweet bread, squat. Guess who she told me, tra la la la. Mr. Red was the lover, tra la la la. If you love him, hug him. If you hate him, stomp. Ha ha ha. Still continuing from the same blog. None of these versions fits the plague interpretation very well, but they do reveal other functions and meaning. The rhyme is often used as a playful courtship game in which children dance in a ring, then suddenly stoop, squat, curtsy, or in some cases fall to the ground. The last to do so, or the one that jumps the gun, has to pay a penalty, which is sometimes to profess love for or hug or kiss another child. In some versions, this child then takes up a place in the middle of the ring, representing the rosy or rose bush. Newell explicitly states that the game was played like this in America in the 1880s, and the European analogs from the same time and later are similar. In many versions, then, the roses and posies signify what flowers often signify in traditional European culture. Not suffering and death, but joy and love. There are many blogs and vlogs depicting the dark stories implicated in nursery rhymes. The final 2 points he states are ultimate. He goes on to add that still the story only seems to have grown stronger in the second half of the 20th century, and this itself is interesting to folklorists. After all, the story is itself folklore and a tale that has passed on by word of mouth first, then in writing and online media. And because it is about folklore, folklorists classify it as metafolklore, folklore about folklore. If the plague story is folklore, we would expect to counter it in different versions and variants. And so we do. The two main variants are the Londonist claim that the rhyme refers to the Great Plague of 1665, and the others claim that it stems from the Black Death of 1347. Within these two main variants, there are sub-variants. In particular, Fitzgerald and others say the 1665 rhyme originated in London, while others say it came from Eam, a village in the English Midlands that was also infected with plague in 1665. One article even claims Eam children sang it while dancing around the victims. And in the marketplace of ideas, a good story often outsells mere facts. So twisting the tale to sensationalize it is nothing new. It's centuries old curse.